Okay, we're here with Melanie Bush this morning. She's running for the county treasurer position, Montgomery County. It's November 4th. I'm John Wirtz. With me are Dennis and Pat Tibbs, as well as Larry Rogers. And Melanie, as we discussed, we'll go ahead and start off with your up to 5-minute opening.
All right. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited about this race. I'm excited about running for county treasurer. Those of you that know me know that I have a bookkeeping business. I was thinking about this morning. I've actually been doing accounting in some form or fashion for 23 years, which is kind of funny considering how young I am. But my mom is actually an accountant, and so I started helping with accounts payable and accounts receivable with her business at 14. And so I, learned a lot of on-the-job training with that, and then did a lot on my own through the National Association of Women Business Owners. I met a lot of connections and just started my own business when I was still in college, and working with those women business owners that needed additional help and needed bookkeeping. Alan and I have been married 15 years now, and he moved me from Dallas area, where we both grew up, to College Station, and we had our first child there. I still had my business. I had started it in college in Dallas at SMU, and then when we moved to College Station, with technology the way it was, I was able to continue with my Dallas clients and included a few in College Station. Then having Rebecca, I kind of scaled back a little bit because I really wanted to be home, but I still wanted a little something for me. And when we moved here, he started his own practice, and even before that, his own legal practice. They started asking, well, what does your wife do? Well, he networks with a lot of CPAs. When they found out that I was a bookkeeper, my business took off like nobody's business. So starting in 2010, I brought on additional staff because I couldn't take it on my own. And today we are 17. We have been as many as 18. Business vacillates one person at a time sometimes. We have focused on small and medium-sized business, and I am very proud of focusing on the bookkeeping aspect. County treasurer is a bookkeeping job. And a lot of people don't realize what the county treasurer position even is. Part of the challenge in this race is to educate the public on what that position truly does. It is the accounts payable management. It is receiving those deposits. And in addition to that, it's taking care of investments and the bail bonds and jury payments. And so it's important that you have the right people in place to do that. But you also need to focus on innovation. You need to focus, this is not a fee-producing office. There are other offices that bring money in that can help compensate for their costs. County treasurer doesn't bring in any money. This is purely an accounting function. And so you need to be as lean and as efficient of an office as possible. And that's where I think I bring the most benefit. With my education, but also with my business experience. I want to run that office like a business. I want to run it as efficient as we possibly can. In order to do that, we need innovation. The software system is in desperate need of updating. Right now, as I'm sure you've heard, payroll is still being done on manual timesheets. It is not required that everybody have direct deposit, so a lot of the checks are still done manually, and you're sending one person from county offices all over the county to come to the treasurer's office to pick up those pay stubs and to take them to or pay checks to take them to the employees. And the pay stubs are also all done manually that the county offices are picking up. Even if you're on direct deposit, you do not get an electronic pay stub. In 2017, that is incredibly backwards. We need to change this. And it's not that we lack the ability. It is that we need to put the focus on doing the right things to cut the budget and to do right by our taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. So in the questionnaire, in the third question under the general category, we asked, what are your 3 biggest concerns about the county treasurer office? You mentioned 3. But of course, you just did transparency, independence, innovation, and
Yes.
you just touched on the innovation part. expound on transparency and independence,
Okay.
not necessarily in that order.
Okay. I'll focus on transparency first because it's the easiest one to focus on. The statement of balances, if you were to go to the county treasurer's website currently, September is not up yet for the statement of balances. Things that are supposed to be done on a monthly basis are not necessarily being put online on a regular monthly basis. So the transparency to the taxpayers is not there. There's also additional transparency issues with how maybe some vendors are being approved, which all runs through the treasurer's office as well. And I would say the independence issue ties in with the transparency in that I'm not beholden to anybody. As you all know, I am a business owner. I'm here to do what's best for the taxpayers. I pay taxes just like everybody else. And I don't feel like this is the way our county should be run. I don't feel like as a elected official, you should be beholden to any other elected officials, that you should be beholden to anyone other than the taxpayers in doing what's right for them.
Okay.
We talk to candidates in these types of offices, and everybody always says that the solution is zero-based budgeting, which sort of seems like a default. So how did we evolve to the point where so many people don't use that?
Oh.
And why? I guess
Okay.
somebody's pocket gets enriched.
I
without
think that you see at a government level, county, and I will even pick on the districts with CISD and other districts, but it's real easy to say, well, we did this last year, and so what are we going to need for the growth we have in the next year? And you just keep adding and adding. Well, zero-based budgeting is going back to, let's start with zero and see what we really need to do. And that's where we need to have that change. If you look at it and not with how much are we growing, what do we need to add in order to meet that growth, let's look at what we could cut to where we stay where we are. And at the county level, that's something that we need to focus on. I looked at her budget and her plan for this coming year, and in her budget presentation, she said that she was including a part-time employee for when the new software system comes online, because they're going to need that. But in the same budget presentation, she said that the new software system was still 2 years out. So we have a part-time person in the budget for growth that we acknowledge in the same presentation is 2 years away. That doesn't make sense to me. If you're doing a truly zero-based budgeting, you're looking at, okay, what do I need right now to do this job for the next year? What other capital expenditures are we going to need over the next several years? And let's start talking about setting aside any capital funds we may need. If we need to buy new software, that is a big expense usually. And how do we do that?
Do any departments in Montgomery County use zero-based budgeting?
I believe one of them may, but not to the fullest level. I think that some are trying to get there, but I think you have a lot of departments that are just taking
Last year.
and adding to it.
Okay.
That's something I want to get involved in, is the budget process.
Sound like everybody needs to go that
Somebody
way.
needs to.
Okay, with your successful bookkeeping business, as it relates to you being elected, what will happen to that business? Who will run the business? Could you explain that?
Certainly, that is a great question, thank you. My management staff, I have worked really hard. I don't think that it's very important in a business to always have an exit plan. If you're going to build a business, you need to always know how you're going to exit that business. I have two fabulous managers that have come to me from, one has been with me almost 6 years, the other has been with me over a year. And they have been directors of finance with chambers of commerce and with other business entities that they've been involved in. And so they are going to take over the running of the business on a day-to-day basis. I will continue to own the business, but I will not be doing anything on a day-to-day basis with it at all. And so Randy will take over as being the primary and Teresa as being second in command. Randy has been my right hand for the last several years, and that has been something that, she's always been there for me to rely on. The plan when we looked at doing this, I had to run county treasurer through a couple of lenses before I decided for sure I was going to run. First one being my husband. And then The second was my business partner, who's Barry Blanton, and then the third was Randy, and making sure that they're all okay with this, because this is a big thing to step out of a business that you've grown. And we talked at length about it. Everybody was incredibly supportive, but Randy's response was, okay, so when would this all work out? And with the election being primary election in March, I have a 9-month transition period to fully get her up to speed in the aspects of the business that she doesn't do, that I do, which is mainly the administrative side of the business at this point. When it comes to business development and working with the clients, she and Teresa do a majority of that. So it's not going to be as hard of a transition. So.
Okay, great.
A little bit more on the budget, and you had talked about having to rid the county of ghost employees.
Yes, sir.
So that obviously is an issue, and sometimes nepotism goes hand in hand with that.
Yes.
How bad do you think the nepotism is in this county, or that you're aware of right now?
From what I've seen, there is quite a lot of nepotism in the county. Well, quite a lot of family employees working for other departments. I have 2 sisters in my business that work for me, that I hired. One is marketing and works part-time and maybe puts in 5 hours a week. The other is actually running my Georgetown office. They do not report to each other. They do not have, any involvement with each other unless we are doing a marketing campaign in Georgetown, and she'll get involved with getting it.
They're your sisters or sisters
No,
of each other?
no, they are sisters of each other. They have no
No.
relation to me at all. But
Okay.
I hired them because of their skill sets.
Right.
I hired them because of what they could do, but they each report to me. They don't report to each other. I think one of the keys that you have with nepotism is that independence. If you have family members reporting to each other, you've got a huge independence issue.
Yeah.
If you have family members that 2 tiers up report to each other, that's a problem as well. So they may report to a department head, but that department head reports to their family member. That's an issue in my mind. Whereas if it's completely separate, like what we have here, I don't think, in my business, I don't think that that's a problem, having 2 family members. So I think that you have to walk that line of making sure that you're looking at every person's qualifications, but making sure that there is no risk of them reporting to someone that is family or that is any blood relation.
Do you think you would limit it at 2 degrees of separation, or does it go further than
We
that?
have very strict nepotism policy for the district, and I would actually want to mirror that same policy.
Yeah,
So,
which is,
it's
No
it's
relation
even
at
further.
all.
It's no relation. It's
Yeah.
it's even, I think, cousins once removed. I mean, it's a quite strict policy.
okay.
So.
Okay. And pretty much mirror that
Yeah.
if you come in office. Okay. Dennis?
Okay. A lot of the people that we interview, like the constables and even commissioners, say that they have no requirement to be physically present at work. And I guess that's the case for most elected officials. and
I
probably
believe that
for
would be
yours
the
too.
correct.
So do you plan on working banker's hours or a 10-hour day or?
No, sir.
Most of the time?
I do not plan on working banker's hours. I don't work banker's hours now. You will find my work ethic is quite dedicated. I would expect to continue to do certain things that I feel as an elected official I need to do, being at certain lunches and things like that that are meeting with those taxpayers. I'm referencing some of the Republican women's lunches that are during the day. But at the same time, if I'm going to take a 2-hour lunch, then at the middle of the day, you're going to find me there an hour early or an hour late to compensate for that.
Who pays for that lunch?
That's a very good question.
Okay.
My understanding is the elected officials' campaign fund should be paying for that, or them personally.
Okay. All right, good deal.
Now, as for when their staff goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Explain your, I believe you're on the school board? is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
If you could, explain what you've learned from that, and how will that, when's your term up, and how
Okay.
does that coincide with?
Okay. I've been on CISD. It's actually 3 years today that I was elected. So I saw that this morning, and I was very touched that it was 3 years today. The term is actually up next November, and so I would just not run for reelection for that winning in March. And so I would step off of school board November of 18 and assume the county treasurer's role January 1st of 19. So the timing works perfectly. That was one of my personal requirements before seeking this office, was that I was not giving up CISD school board. When I make a commitment, I honor it, unless there's something for example, I was on a committee and was involved in something, and Alan got cancer earlier this year. I stepped off that committee. But with regards to being an elected official, if you're elected to do something, I'm going to see it through, and I'm not going to step down from my position early in order to go run for something else. What I've learned in school board, we have a great district in Conroe ISD. Is there room for improvement? Yes. Is there room for improvement elsewhere? Yes. What I have learned is to ask really good questions, because you will find out more about what's going on when you sit back and ask those questions and dig a little deeper. It's been a very interesting year. We're headed into Dr. Stockton's retirement. We're looking at hiring a new superintendent, and that's going to be a big transition for this district. We have the longest serving superintendent in the state, and maybe even in the nation. He's been serving for CISD for 15 years. While that's a great thing and provides great continuity, because a lot of superintendents don't serve longer than 3 years, so you don't get to see the impact of their policies when they hit that 3-year mark. Do you mind if I continue for a minute? Okay. When they hit that 3-year mark, their policies are just starting to really fully come to fruition in the district, and then they're gone. And so having longevity in a school district is crucially important in those upper positions, in my opinion. However, you've also got to take that innovation. And here we are. He's been there 15 years. It's time to have someone new at the helm, and he recognizes that just as much as anyone else. And so we're looking forward to taking it and looking for that person that's going to take us the next 15, the next 20 years. I've dug in. I've asked a lot of questions trying to understand why they do what they do and how schools work. Being a business person, school finance and public education system is a very complex, very, very complicated monster to get your hand around. So I really spent that first year on the board asking question after question after question. And now you've seen me transition to truly stepping up to lead in that district and making policy changes and pushing for example, reappraisals for our Harvey impacted residents. Because the more you get involved, the more you learn. And so I've learned what we can and what we can't really do, and why we have to have certain reserves, but why maybe we don't need to have as much reserve that we can do the Harvey reappraisal and maybe some other things with that reserve. So.
Great, thank you.
All righty. Well, kind of along those lines, do you believe in term limits?
I do. I think that what limit that is, I'm not 100% sure. I think it depends on the position and what the term of that position is. I don't think that someone should be serving in any one position for 20 years. I think that as an elected official, you're way too liable to get jaded and lobbied by special interest and not really doing what the taxpayers want. But whether it's 2 terms or 3 terms or 4 terms, I'm not exactly sure what the right mix of those would be, depending upon the term that someone's actually serving, whether 2, 4, or 6. I think it varies.
How long do you plan to serve?
As county treasurer,
Yeah,
I expect 2 terms.
2?
Yes,
Okay.
max.
When things seem kind of upside down at home, work,
Yes.
or perhaps with the school board that you just mentioned, when, for instance, most of those board members originally voted against granting relief to flood victims, who or what do you turn to help, for help, to sort it all out?
My Lord, I turn a lot to prayer. I turn a lot to my husband. He has given me a lot of godly wisdom over the years, and I'm very grateful to that. When I first wanted to run for school board, it was 2 years prior to actually running. And I went to Alan and told him I wanted to do it, and he said, not the time. And I didn't like that answer, but I accepted it and waited 2 more years. And it was the best thing that, I could have done. I spend a lot of time focused on where the Lord is leading, but then I spend a lot of time researching. So you're going to see if with reappraisals, for example, when that happened, I dug in more to getting more knowledge as to what was going on, as to how much it was really going to cost. I ran further models. I talked with, in that case, Tammy McCrae more. I talked with Tony Belanoski more. I really looked at how many properties could it be max. And so I called, county commissioner saying, okay, how many are we looking at in your county, your part of the county versus yours? What are we thinking the total number is going to be? And the total number at that point, they were saying, well, it may be as many as 8,000 to 9,000 homes. Okay, CISD land-wise is a third of the county, but we're also the most densely populated part of the county. So even if you took that it was 5,000 of those 8,000 homes, I then ran models myself on what the tax implications were going to be and what the revenue loss to our district would be. And it wasn't enough to me to have justified not discussing this. But I'll dig in and do more research, and I'll go to experts that have that knowledge, like I said, like Tammy McCrae, and ask her, what are we looking at? So.
Okay. Dennis?
Generations ago, people would work for the government, knowing that it was not the best paying job around, but recognizing that they had all sorts of perks and benefits, retirements and health care and that sort of thing. Over time, the elected officials have reinvented themselves, so now they're almost the highest paid people around, plus they still get all those perks. And kind of off the radar, but one of the worst are school superintendents.
Correct.
So that's your whole job, of course, but you might want to comment on that. But what opportunity or impact does the treasurer have in setting salaries for their own people and expressing opinions about other county salaries?
So that's been something that I don't think that other elected officials have commented on in this county with regards to others. They tend to keep their opinions to themselves if they think that someone else is overpaid, because they wouldn't want them to step on their own pay, and it's been a let's all keep each other as well compensated as possible. With regards to the retirement, health insurance, and all the benefits that you get from being a long-term county employee, as I've already told you, I have a plan of being in this position for 2 terms. That's 8 years. You don't get all those benefits long-term and the whole deal that you get from it.
Do you get some?
You get some, but a majority of your retirement doesn't fully kick in and all the benefits, from my understanding, until you hit that 20-year mark, and that's when you really get the most benefit out of being there. And I have no desire to work in the county for 20 years. I have a specific, and I hate to say this, I have a specific mission, and my mission is to fix what is broken in this department. With regards to being overpaid, I do believe this position is overpaid. And I think you will see that change when I get in that position.
What is the annual salary?
135.
What's your idea of change on that?
Decreasing.
Do you have an amount yet, or in mind?
Would rather not publicly comment on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Larry?
Okay, on the questionnaire, what privacy issues between Texans and federal government does the Treasurer's Office deal with, and where is the line of balance between safety and privacy?
Mm-hmm.
Your answer was the payroll arm of the county, there are a ton of private issues that require utmost discretion. Give me 2 or 3 of the...
Wage garnishments for child support. would be an example. Salaries of county employees, because you process the payroll, just like HR is incredibly important with regards to payroll and how much people are paid. HR is also deals with all the write-ups. With regards to county treasurer, it's the monetary side of things. We deal with if they have any tax liens and are having that money withheld from their pay. We deal with if they owe back child support and are having that withheld from their pay. So things along those lines I feel are very important privacy issues that should not go anywhere else. None of my staff knows what the other staff are making. That's not their job. They're not supposed to know that. As the county,
Isn't it public information that anybody can go see?
well, no, my
private.
business
Oh, I see.
staff.
Yeah, yeah.
My business staff. It is important that when you're dealing with paying people, that the person that's running the payroll doesn't sit there and lord over someone else what, someone else is making. County elected officials, yes. But as for all the staff and what their staff are all point blank making, it's a public information request that it can be found out what positions are at. But as for this person, and this person, the payroll department does not need to be giving out that information to anybody else.
Yeah, you can
And-
have golden hammer, huh?
I think that it is more important, especially when you're dealing with the wage garnishments. That's a huge privacy issue. If somebody does have a tax lien or does have child support, that's not knowledge that needs to go to other people in their department or to other people that are not processing payroll. That is very, very private information. So,
Thank you.
Taxes.
yes, sir.
Question was, do you support or oppose increasing and broadening the sales tax to reduce property taxes, and why? You said, I feel that with the property tax, no one ever truly owns their property. I don't think you'll find any disagreement
Disagreement
here.
here.
Yeah, and that is wrong. How would you replace the property tax?
That I don't know, and that is part of that comes from the district side of me. Being that all of the district's money to educate our students comes from property tax at this current system, I have hesitation with fully getting rid of property tax because I haven't yet seen a good model to replace it and fully fund education. Now, when I say fully fund education, I think that it's not being allocated the way it should be in a lot of districts and not being used properly. CISD, for example, spends less per student than the state average and than many of our other competing districts in the area, which I'm proud of. We are more efficient, we are more lean than other districts. But even still, if you were to replace wholly with a sales tax, I'm concerned at what that rate would be of a sales tax rate to fully replace property tax. And yet at the same time, I don't want an income tax. So I don't know what that model is yet, and I haven't done enough sit down and research on that as to what I would say is the best model.
Consumption?
Consumption, higher tax rate possibly for more luxury items as opposed to, more necessities. I worry about sales tax going up and it truly being regressive for our lower income families. And so I like, how if it's a car that you're buying, that maybe it's a higher tax rate, things along those lines.
Okay, yeah.
On the software, I think that from what I understand, almost every department, the police department, the JPs, they all have their own software package. Is that true? Every department's got their own software package, or is there some comprehensive that would tie into the county and everybody would just have like subroutines in it?
For the most part, every department has kind of their own that they're running, but each of them tie in with the finance software. So, or not tie in, but they each use the finance software some. So, for example, the commissioners actually have to log into the finance system in order to do certain things.
Do they do everything that way, or do they manage two sets of software?
Too.
Yeah.
For example, one of our commissioners went to a electronic timekeeping system. It is the only department in the county that has gone to a electronic timekeeping where you actually have a card and swipe in rather than punching in and out with a time clock.
For his precinct.
For
employees,
his
huh?
precinct employees, and that system does not integrate into the finance system. That's fine, it still prints out electronic reports that you can then do over into it, and it's still a whole lot faster than adding up, did they get to 8 hours or was it 7.75 hours on a manual punch card time clock?
And other precincts use some other system.
Correct.
Okay.
Got about 15 minutes, 10 minutes, sorry.
All right. County treasurer summary that we had on our website says that the county treasurer's custodian funds for the county with a staff of 6. Is that correct,
Yes.
to your knowledge?
Yes.
Of course, you haven't had a chance to be in the office yet, but your evaluation, I'm sure you've evaluated that to the best of your ability. Do you think the 6 employees is adequate, or?
With the way things are currently done, yes. With not having as efficient of a software system as we could have and things along those lines, yes, sir. I think that she has a very manual system that requires people. I will tell you, the bail bonds administrator, Jan Avery, does a phenomenal job. And if you speak with any of our bonding agents, our surety agents in the county, they think she does an amazing job and have been incredibly complimentary of her. So I think that that's an area of the county treasurer's office I think is working very well and has been very, very efficient. Martha Gustafson and I, who was the county treasurer prior to the person in the position currently, have had many discussions and many talks about where things are today versus where they really should be. And she says, we need someone that is willing to come in and take a look at where we're working all of our processes and what we're doing and what we can make better. And that's, in her opinion, is me, to come in and truly look at it and say, okay, what does this position do? How are we doing it? Does that make sense? Is there a way to do this better? Then this one, same thing. And that's what you're going to get. You're going to get someone that is going to go in and, as I said, ask the questions, why are we doing this the way we're doing it? And learn how they're doing it that way so that we can then look at how we can make it better. I don't think that I can fully evaluate whether or not we're going to stick with 6 people in the next 2 years, because you're not really able to get much access at this moment in time to that office. Especially I'm not able to. And so I will tell you, other counties the other departments in the county really would like to see that department open potentially at lunchtime. They have to run money to and from that office, and that office is closed from 12 to 1 every day for lunch. And so they either have to leave earlier or have to go in late or leave early from work or leave for their lunch hour early to go by that office to make it there before 12 o'clock or after 1 o'clock or after 8 o'clock or before 5 o'clock. And I don't feel like that as a office that our job is to serve our other departments. And I don't feel like that's the way that office should be run.
Okay, thank you.
The Courier's Andy Dubois, who's the managing editor,
Yes.
several months ago, questioned whether or not we even need a county treasurer,
Yeah.
seeing that many counties and the state have jettisoned their own treasurers. What do you feel about this?
So when
About
Andy,
that article?
when Andy put out that article, I went and looked at it. It is a total of 8 counties that got rid of that position. They got rid of it in the 1980s. There have not been any that have successfully gotten rid of that position since 1990s or after. The Texas Comptroller, or the state of Texas, did get rid of their treasurer position. I believe it was either 94 or 96. I'm not remembering the exact year now. But of the counties, there are 8. Looking at those counties, only one of them would be what I would consider very comparable to Montgomery County, and that's Collin County. that does not have a county treasurer position anymore. What they have instead is a director of finance. So they no longer have the elected position, but they still fully have the office. So the director of finance in that position has the budget underneath it and all of the same duties that are under the county treasurer's office. I don't know exactly how I feel on whether or not we need to get rid of the elected position that is accountable to the people. There's some concerns in my opinion on that with regards to the director of finance and reports to commissioner's court. Depending upon your commissioner's court and how that's going, that could work and work okay, or it could really not. And so I have reservations with getting rid of the elected position. I understand looking at those counties and looking at the state getting rid of it, why he would say, I'm not sure that it's necessary anymore. I'm not sure it's necessary anymore either if you have leadership in place that is truly accountable to the residents. But it's, yet again, something I want to look at the office itself. If you can get it to where it's efficient and running well, then I don't think you have the desire to get rid of the elected position if the person running it is running it the way it should be run.
Okay, Dennis?
If you go into
5 minutes.
like a doctor's office, the medical industry, or the engineering industry, anywhere around lunchtime, or maybe all day, you see salesmen, vendor salesmen coming in and out, taking people out to lunch and things like that. Are there any vendors that solicit from the treasurer's office that would be taking people in and out or trying to curry favor?
There shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I can't say that there isn't today. I don't know. I will tell you that you will never, and I haven't as a board member of CISD, but you will not see me going to lunch and letting anyone pay for my lunch as a vendor of the district, and you won't see that as county treasurer. The only vendor that the county treasurer should really be dealing with is those related to finance. So if they're dealing with any banks that they have funds with, if they're dealing with software for their system, or any of their payroll if they were outsourcing or anything along those lines. And those industries all have strict guidelines as to what they can and with regards to banking, especially what they can and cannot do in that area. So they shouldn't have any of that in that office.
Well, are supplies like pens and paper and even copy machines for the treasury department and even other departments, are they all done through central purchasing, or does each department buy
Each
their own?
department buys their own. That's
Oh my goodness. You think that ought to change?
yes,
Yeah.
but I also don't think it should be so rigid of a system that if they literally run out of pens that day, that they can't run to Office Max and go buy pens.
I worked for a company one time that let everybody buy stuff by themselves. And
You don't
we-
end up getting a good deal that way.
Well, I know, but I had a jacked up company car and a souped up motor and spotlights. Everybody did their own thing. So that's not an efficient way to do it, for
No,
sure.
not at all.
Right.
I'll pass,
Probably time for one last
knowing
question.
that you are gonna take more time than,
What is your opinion of 2 current and 1 ex-county commissioner serving on the county appraisal district board? And do you think it's ethical that those who spend our tax dollars are actually the ones charged to hire the taxing authority over us?
So we are actually looking at nominations this month, or voting on our nominations for CISD. And I have come to the firm opinion that no one who is on any taxing entity should be on the appraisal district board. We have nominations from 2 local municipalities that they serve on, county commissioner and another that is a current elected official. I don't feel anybody who is currently on a board that is going to set a tax rate should also be doing MCAD. Now, MCAD is limited in what their board can do with its really oversight over setting the budget and policies. They don't have as much to do with appraising properties as the general public might think they do. That's a separate, section of it. It's not the actual board, but the board sets the budget and the policy. And what we saw this year when Mark Castleshoot was leaving office was a potential budget increase coming from that office of 17% that was going to cost CISD, for example, an additional $750,000 because each of the taxing entities pay for MCAD's budget. So why would we have not only the people that are paying their budget also on the board of that budget? So, for example, our county commissioners that currently serve on MCAD, they not only serve on the MCAD board, but then they approve the budget of MCAD, not only as MCAD board members, but then as county commissioners, they pay it. And I think that that's an extreme conflict of interest. So I think that we need to have average citizens. I think we need to have more business owners or people involved in business involved on that board that are no longer elected officials.
All right. With that, go ahead, you have a question?
No, it just, that was time up.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and close if you like, up to 5 minutes.
I am gonna defer to y'all. I really appreciate this process. If y'all have any further questions, I'd rather answer those.
Kind of maybe sort of unrelated. Second Amendment,
Yes,
unrelated to the position, but
Correct.
we try to get outside the box and a lot of questions, just kind of see where people stand in certain issues. Regarding, the question was what firearm and carry restrictions should Texas government require of citizens? And you said you would not recommend that Texas have standards beyond the license to carry and background check to purchase, and that you do not think that felons should be able to purchase, which is why you prefer the background check.
Yes.
What about constitutional carry?
I will not personally ever constitutionally carry. I will not open carry, and personal reasons. I feel like if someone sees that I have my weapon on me, they are going to take me out first. I like the element of surprise. So
That's not really constitutional carry though, right?
Right.
Constitutional carry
pardon me.
means the Second Amendment Constitution is my permit.
Well,
Open or
and-
closed, you know.
Right.
And my thing is that I rather see people have a little bit of training and a little bit of knowledge before they're out taking a firearm and possibly making a mistake. My dad taught me how to shoot at 9 years old, and I think that it's incredibly important that people know how to fire a weapon before they necessarily are out carrying on the streets. And it's a personal opinion with regards to that. I have seen people do bad things because they didn't know what they were handling. And I would rather them know how to shoot first. So I like the limited requirements that we have. I think we have some of the easiest requirements. I don't think that we need to have, that you have to go through 8-10 hours of shooting practice. I like the lesser limits that we now have. So
All right. That it?
I have no problem with
Well,
people owning a gun, but
Yeah. Just real quickly,
Yes.
does the treasurer have just one office?
yes,
And it's somewhere in the middle of town, huh?
Sadler Building.
Okay, and all 6 employees are,
Yes, sir.
okay. We'd be right here.
Yeah.
All righty. Well,
All right.
good. That should wrap it up, and we appreciate you coming in and wish you the best of luck in your campaign.
Thank you.